And we're back. Wednesday night. It's D&D. Reclamation. Words. News. Um, Hi. I'm staring at my keyboard. I should look at the camera, I guess. Hi. News. I have a new job, which I'll be working, starting tomorrow officially. Technically, I guess it was starting yesterday because I got paid for my orientation. So technically yesterday, regardless, nuances. It's not going to affect the schedule at all because it's very early in the morning. It just means that afterwards, when players and I hang out, I will not be hanging out as long, because the shifts start at 5 a.m. So it means I'm up at like the earliest 4. So I probably want to get to bed earlier. But yeah, so that's happening. New changes and things in life. It's great. Yeah, I guess it's always worth mentioning, because I feel like I've never mentioned it before. I do maintain a YouTube channel where I upload the game VODs without the breaks in them. That's just youtube.com/dire consequence. Feel free to go there if you ever have a need to catch up. I've not missed a session so far, and I'm fingers crossing never going to miss a session for the campaign. If only just because it'd be nice to have a little archive of this amazing journey we're going to continue going on. Yeah, I think that's it. So, Kay, would you like to do the recap for us while I make sure everyone realizes that Zhao is in fact present today?
I am.
Yeah, since you set the wrong person to absent.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
I put some duct tape on Corona's mouth there. Oops.
Oh, now she's spitting it over there.
Patui. Okay, Kay, please tell us what happened last session.
All right. So last session, to start off, Titan worked on the armor, plate armor.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? So he is now currently 5 out of 14, which is pretty good, all things considered. I mean, I think it might have happened the week prior. Oh no, it happened that night. Okay, cool. Yes, we got back from the mission. Everybody went, you know what? We're gonna sleep. That was kind of rough. We reported to covert first. We were slightly responsible. And came home, went to sleep. Roz woke up with a splitting headache bleeding out of her face because she took a lot of psychic damage that would have well killed everybody else. But Roz is awesome and pretty tough, to be completely honest. And Roz gained magic. I don't remember what it's called. Is it Arcane Secrets or something?
What did you settle on there, Sam?
The spell that I took?
Yeah. Unless you want to keep it a secret.
Oh, the spell I took was from the Spells That Don't Suck compendium called Earth Rumble. It's Earth Tremor, but it doesn't suck.
Aha! It makes sense.
The system works.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, so Roz now knows Earth Rumble. We'll see how that plays out later. Because of everything, Roz runs to talk to Bandit. Accidentally runs directly into Lucius, I was gonna say the Titan of a man. Nope, that's the other one. He's a Dragon Eye. But the leader of the Immortal Bastion, or who we I think assume is the co-leader of the Immortal Bastion, with his sister Lucilla. He ushers her into the camp and gets her cleaned up, and Roz promptly lies about why she's bleeding out of her face, and he knows something's up, and Lucilla, bless her heart, is all, that's fine, I totally believe you. Kind of gets on her way out, gets told, hey, don't lie to my sister or else you won't be welcome back here. And Roz went, all right, heard, understood, see you at dinner. Because we're gonna go back there for dinner tonight. Lilith spent her time with getting a weaver's kit. With a weaver's kit, making a red cape for Roz. We don't know it's red yet. It's enchanted to be whatever color the wearer wants.
I think it was originally
red,
it's
though. Blue.
It is made out of red fabric, but it is right now blue.
Very sneaky. Audie went to the Dusty Daisy, has arranged to play or to sing, to perform at the tavern tonight after dinner. Audie's gonna have a busy night tonight. She's gonna have a busy session. I think I have 4 things I need to do. We were informed by Jace's son. Viren's son. Viren's son, Klein. That we need a new name because we're being called Greenies and he thinks that sucks. And it's embarrassing. So we need to figure that out. And then Audie went to the Ivory Seductress to try and forget everything that had just happened because she felt like she was going to lose one of her best friends and it terrified her. And she didn't like that it terrified her. She doesn't like it when things make her face reality. And spent some time with a Doreen called Muse in the Chaos. Let me see, what else? She left, ran into Roz, had a bit of a chit-chat, and caused Roz.exe to stop working by shifting topics wildly. That's kind of where we... Oh, nope. There's a whole other page. I have more notes. Roz and Lilith had baths. That was out. That's what else happened. To keep the recap a little short. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of the day. Very slice of lifey. Very fun. Except for the bleeding out of the face. That's not as fun.
I mean, unless Ross says otherwise.
No,
Who knows?
It's not fun. It's not fun to wake up in the middle of the night with all this blood pouring out of your face.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. It's a reasonable reaction to have. Well then, I think we're caught up. In which case, I've not moved the time for today, but I will move the time forward to about 4 p.m. So we know what Audie's been up to. We know that both Lilith and Roz had baths and actually spoke to their courtesans instead of letting them stand there silently watching them. But for someone who wasn't here last week, Corona, was there anything in particular you wanted to highlight or do with your time?
How much would we have?
This was like a full day after you all had come back. So starting from like 6:37.
Let me check my money reserves. Okay. She might have gone ahead and seeked out enough leather to start kind of just have the materials for a hat.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, she's not going to start anything with that just yet. She's just looking to get the materials, and then once there's enough downtime, she'll work on that. Otherwise, she's just taking it easy, getting that free bath and all that free service, helping out her mom and pa or whoever needs help. Nothing too special.
Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, pretty uneventful day for you then. Yeah, and if you just want to mark off, let's see, stuff to make a hat is not very expensive.
Yeah.
But the merchants here are thieves. So if you don't have anything in your grab bag of goodies, it honestly for the 5 cloth scraps and the 1 spool of thread, it'd just be a full silver piece.
Okay. Easy peasy. Okay. And I'll just put down the scraps for the hat. My inventory somewhere.
Yeah, 5 cloth scraps, 1 spool of thread.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so it's now later in the afternoon, the very early evening. The camp is more lively around this time. A lot of people coming and going between camps, heading into the center, where entertainment can be found in company of many varying sorts. Likewise, you all, collectively as a party, have been invited to the camp of the Immortal Bastion, initially facilitated by Roz. And at some point through the various grapevine of everybody traveling around the camp, everybody knows that this invite has been posed, and several members of the party are interested in attending. Sam, did I give you a specific time that you were told to be there for? My brain's fuzzy.
No.
Okay. In which case, I would say it's 5 p.m. is when you were expected to be there.
Cool.
So I suppose, let's get this one out of the way. Is anyone not interested in going? Totally not
Perfect.
taking notes about relationship statuses if you turn them down for dinner?
What a silly question.
Okay. Perfectly fine. Then if everyone is going, in the hour or so leading up to it, is there any kind of special dinner preparations anyone would like to make?
Yeah. Before the dinner happens, Roz needs to go back to the Bastion camp because she got something to say.
Okay.
She has an apology to go make.
Yeah, sure. Let's handle that right now.
Okay. Well, smelling fresh and like lavender, but having only one set of clothes on her and not changing into anything nicer, Roz goes back to the Immortal Bastion camp.
How anime of you. Yeah, you can make it back to the camp. It's around 4. You can see that there's several people kind of moving about in the camp. Everyone seems to be on task for something. The large central tent that you've seen them all gathered in praying once upon a time, the flaps have been pulled aside, and you can see that there appears to be this immensely long table that has been set up and is currently being dressed and prepared for dinner. When you arrive at the entrance and kind of take your first tentative step across the threshold, it isn't long before someone notices you. There's a human male, fair-skinned, kind of strawberry blonde hair that just is walking by carrying a crate on one shoulder. Just sort of stops, looks at you. I've seen you around before once or twice. You're one of the dinner guests tonight?
That's right. I know I'm a bit early, but I wanted to talk to Lucilla and Lucius if I might.
Yeah. Lucilla's cooking. And he sort of turns like his whole body with the weight he's carrying, and he points to the backside of the camp, and then he gestures. So if you head to the back, past the big tent and to the right, that's where our cooking area is. That's where you'll find Lucilla. Lucius, I think he's in his tent, which is the first tent just before the cooking area. So really, pick where you want to go first, I suppose. Do you need me to take you there for introduction's sake, or?
We've met, so I'm sure to be fine unless a stranger walking about the camp is a problem.
No, not really.
All right. Well, thank you for your help. I'm going to go find Lucius first and then find Lucilla after.
All right. See you at dinner.
See you there.
And he goes about his way.
All right. Well, we're going to go find Lucius first. quite so rude as to blunder into his tent, but come up to it and kind of poke the fabric really loudly a few times.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like a heavy canvas, so you can kind of give it a good whap, whap, whap.
Sir Lucius, you in there?
You hear movement inside of the tent, and only a couple of seconds pass when you see the flap is pulled open, by his arm, and he's just sort of sitting there, partially hunched over because you realize the tent is not entirely made to accommodate his height. Roswin, are you a little early?
I know. I wanted to come and personally offer an apology and explanation for earlier, now that I've kind of got my head on my shoulders again. I can apologize to you right now, or get you and Lucilla in the same place to do it, whichever you prefer.
Let's go find my sister.
All right. They said she's cooking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, give me one second. And he drops the flap, and you hear him go back into the tent real quick. And as the flap reopens, he's strapping on a very heavy, broad-bladed. I've talked about them previously. To most people, it is closer to a long sword, but for him, it's a short sword, a gladius-style short sword. Otherwise, he's dressed fairly plainly. White linen, collared button shirt, like a green canvas slacks, and a pair of very well-worn traveling boots. But he steps out, stretches himself up to his full height, and then just kind of walks off, past his tent to the back corner of the camp where you were told Lucilla was supposed to be.
All right, let's go find Lucilla.
It's not long. The Immortal Bastion camp is not big, especially by comparison to White Cross or the Tyrants. It's much more humble by comparison. So you're literally only maybe 5 or so yards before you kind of cross over into a threshold where there's a bunch of crates stacked in some sort of order. And you can see there's some long wooden tables arranged. There's a cook fire with several spits, and various metal shafts kind of stabbed into the ground to accommodate the swing hooks and things. There are a bunch of pots, cast iron pots, you can see arranged, several of which are currently filled and bubbling. You are hit by a scent that reminds you, well, maybe it doesn't actually. I suppose this is going to be a question for you. It is salty and carries a certain level of spiciness to it, and there's a heavy intonation of seafood. That I was going to say would remind you of the ocean.
No, I don't think Ross has ever been to the ocean.
Back there is 3 individuals currently working, one of which you can instantly identify as Lucilla based off of her long platinum blonde wavy hair. She is got currently pulled up into a ponytail, but still kind of waving and dragging around behind her. She's got an apron on, and she's likewise similar to her brother, dressed very plainly and very simple, canvas linen clothing. She has 2 other people helping her, another human, a bit shorter in stature, suntanned, dark chocolate brown, very thick, bushy hair that's shaved a bit closer to the top of his skull, but then it gets progressively bushier as it goes down from his sideburns down to his beard. And they're all sort of dressed in a manner that is just aprons, plain garb. And you can tell that they're currently working between several dishes to get food ready enough for people that have been invited tonight. When you're kind of there on the edge, you'll see Lucius just sort of stop, rest his hand on the edge of his gladius. Lucy, we have an early dinner guest. And she'll stop talking to the man, and with a towel in her hand, wiping her hands clean, she turns around and she sees you, and she beams when she sees that you've arrived, Roz. Well, Roz, you're a lot earlier than I expected you to be, but it's a pleasant surprise all the same. And she comes over and she takes both of your hands in her hands and squeezes them.
Yeah, getting definitely that embarrassed smile back. I came a little early actually because I needed to talk to you about something. Do you mind if we step out for a sec?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Steven, take care of things for me. I'm gonna be gone for a few minutes. And you see the human, he just nods and turns back to the chopping and cutting he was doing. Lucius, clearly understanding your intent, just sort of gestures to the opposite side of the camp where you'll start walking. And again, small camp, it's not like super far, and it'll take you a minute to cross to the other side, where there's a small tent, and you can tell that it's got a bit of a trench dug into it, where it looks like they have some cold storage. And he takes you over there off to around the side, and there's no one currently over here. When you finally get there, you could tell Lucilla has picked up on something unspoken, and so she looks at you with eyes that are filled with concern.
Right. Well,
is everything all right? You okay?
I owe you an explanation and an apology for earlier. I lied to you when I came here earlier today with blood streaming out of my mouth and nose.
Okay.
You remember what I was saying about the Merc portal and the Erider and all that?
Mm-hmm.
When the Erider appeared to us, or just before the Erider appeared to us, it asked a few of us for a secret. Asked, didn't take or anything. And I gave it one in exchange for knowledge and power that I believed would help us complete our mission, and I was gravely mistaken. When I woke up this morning, I think it was because the Erider made good on its deal. And I didn't want to tell you because I was scared of what you would think or what you would do. And for that matter, it had just happened. So I'm very sorry that I lied to you.
She looks between you and then to her brother. And he's standing there. He has his arms crossed, but he's very impassive, imperceptible. And then she looks back to you. And then she just sort of very slowly and tentatively reaches both of her hands out as if to ask to take yours again, like how she greeted you.
Roz almost confusedly holds her hands out, like this is an unfamiliar gesture.
Mm-hmm. And she holds both of, the ends of your hands from underneath. She squeezes them very firmly. Roz, I'm so sorry that happened to you and that you were so afraid when things were happening. I wish I could have helped you more had I known.
You shouldn't be sorry to me. I lied to you. I'm sorry.
You have nothing to be sorry for. Not to me. You made a choice. Consequences, good or bad, are yours to deal with. But you can help lessen that burden by sharing that with others. I'm just willing to say I'm willing to help share some of it is all.
I expected this to go a lot worse than it did, I guess. Call it catastrophizing.
Or you just talked to my brother first, didn't you?
he is much scarier than you.
Yeah, he is. He's also a little overprotective.
Well, now that that's over, I'd, as an extension of the apology, like to offer to help make dinner, if I might. I'm terrible at it, but you can tell me what to do, and I'm good at listening.
She has a moment. She looks at Lucius. Lucius nods. She goes, absolutely. And she gives you the big, bright white smile again. Good news is, a lot of dishes and things that we used to eat where we came from, and they're all fairly simple. So, yeah, come on. I'll introduce you to Steven. And to Jax, wherever he wandered off to. And, we can get cooking.
Yes, ma'am. Lead the way.
1 second. Roz, if you stay behind. Lucy, you can run on ahead. I'll send her along shortly. She doesn't question it. You see Lucilla nod and she turns and walks away, displaying a certain amount of unflappable trust in her brother that nothing's going to happen.
Oh, this is what I was worried about. Am I about to get smited into the dirt for making a deal with a Mercurian?
No, you're not. Although I have considered it.
Yeah.
I more wanted to tell you a consequence of your choice. You have a little bead of Mercurian influence inside of you now. One that I can sense. Just be aware of that. Certain types with certain gifts similar to mine might not take kindly to you arriving to a place unknown and them seeing that in you.
All right. I understand, and thank you for the warning.
All right. Go catch up. You have work to do.
Yes, sir. Right away.
And you run off to catch up to Lucilla. And you see when you get there, the suntanned human, Steven, and there is a fire Aurea, a giant Ken, with kind of this pale red skin, covered in these metallic gold tattoos. Likewise, and again, maybe in perhaps starker contrast because Lucilla and Steven, by comparison, are very plain looking, dressed in a very similar plain garb of linen and canvas, and likewise just this, clearly well-used apron around their very large, tall frame. Just is very funny by comparison. But when you get there, Lucilla welcomes you, introduces you to both Jax and Steven, and then we'll sit you over at one of the large tables where she'll just talk your ear off about the food and what it is, and that they recently went on a trip to the beach south of here to do all the fishing and stuff for it, so that way they could have it prepared and it's all fresh.
Roz is very patient about listening to all of this, despite understanding almost none of it.
Mm-hmm.
She knows what fishing is.
Yeah, there's a whole smattering of things here. There are a bunch of different types of fish. There are several lobsters. There are a good bushel of clams, along with several what looks like smoked and dried sausages, not related to the beach, but amongst all the other various proteins. Think a little Cajun cuisine. Definitely very reflective of what's going on here. But you get heavily immersed in this as you are given simple tasks to do to help prepare stuff. And for the things that you don't know, either Lucilla will attempt to show you, and for things that are even a little bit beyond her, Steven will do it. And Steven proves to be quite a competent cook. And boy, are you gonna be busy until dinner's ready.
That's what she asked for.
Meanwhile, elsewhere in the camp, what's Lilith, Adi, Corona? Any hour before dinner prep?
I realized that Audie would probably, at some point after her bath before dinner,
Mm-hmm.
would go to the merchants and see if she can find a simple dress.
Like
Something relatively clean.
like a simple sundress kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably something similar to what she's, used to wearing at home, but it doesn't have to be fine and fancy. But she'd definitely be looking
Right.
for a change of clothes.
Okay. Patterned or not?
Not if at all possible.
Okay. So a simple colored
Mm-hmm.
dress.
Yeah, she's looking for a lilac dress.
Oh, okay. So quite specific color. Okay.
She'll, if she can't find it, she'll find, she'll take what's there. But
Yeah. Well, so when you go to the merchantry, like I said, they kind of have like this a large section of it's sort of like an open air flea market style. They have a bunch of wooden stalls with overhangs where a bunch of goods are on display. And clothing is one of those sections that is very diverse and quite large in quantity, and that you can walk through several rows of clothes hanging on, hung up on racks and things folded and tucked away in boxes. There's a very eager clerk that is there to try to help you find whatever it is you're looking for. And you know what? Just roll me a percentile die. You have a percentage chance to find exactly what you're looking for.
all right. That's a 95.
Yeah, wow, overkill. Yeah, there is in fact a lilac dress with slightly flared arms. Very,
Excellent.
very, very airy. Very good for this sort of temperament of weather you're in.
I'm very much picturing it that, like, Audie shows up and talks to the shopkeeper and goes, "This is what I want. I want blah blah blah." Lists it out and goes, "Something kind of, oh well, something kind of like that," and points at it.
Yeah, it's just like one of the first like 2 or 3 things hanging on a rack nearby.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll go over. They'll measure up to you. It conveniently is an exact fit for you since your 95 is so high. And they'll look at you and then look at the dress, and tell you it's going to be 6 silver.
Hey. Something that I, as a player, am awful at, but question about whether it's possible in this environment is bartering. Is that something that's cultural,
you
or is
can.
it like no?
It's totally doable. As a matter of fact, it is probably more uncommon that no one has attempted to try to get a different price from them.
Yeah. And Audie would approach it in good fun. Like she's not looking to insult them or like undercut them.
No,
but she's heard that these prices are absurd.
Yeah, coming from a family that's owned a general goods store, you're not unfamiliar with haggling. If you as a player don't actually want to do the haggling, you can just roll a.
I would sound like an idiot if I tried. I could try.
Perfect. I'm not gonna force you into it. You're more than welcome to just roll a persuasion check. And I will likewise roll a contested check, and if you beat them, we can, or it will be based off of a scale. If you go lower than them, you can't do anything, and then based off of how high above their check is how much of a discount you can get.
Right. All right. That's a 16.
Okay. Yeah. So you'll talk back and forth. You'll make some observations about the material it's made from, the level of craftsmanship, and the fact that, especially because of your background as working in a goods store and understanding merchant trade, that because one of the things they talk about is like, oh, we have to make sure that we get an appropriate price for the cost of the person who made it. To which you can kind of easily observe that they have several different pieces made by the same person, to which you understand they probably just bought all these in bulk at once because they were willing to offload them at that cost, just for an easy profit. And now they're trying to, gouge people for it because of in the place they're in and the needs of other people.
Yeah, they're not running with their goods. They get shipments or can get portal shipments, kind of thing. Yeah.
They will cut it in half.
Ooh.
You do a little bit of back and forth and you get them down to about half of the original offer. And by about, I mean exactly half.
So 3 silver.
3 silver. Still absolutely price gougey, but it's half of the gouge.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that Audie at the end of it would be like, thank you so much for being so benevolent. This is going to, she plays into it. Like, she knows how this works.
Yeah. And little do you know, because of your low passive perception, somewhere in the distance there is a halfling watching you, twirling a corner of his mustache.
The player's wondering if she knows this halfling.
No, none of you do. No one's met this guy yet.
Okay.
Because there have been so little direct interactions with the merchantry, none of their NPCs have come up yet. You guys have just dealt with the quite literal NPCs of the shop.
Audie has a new dress, which is actually for her performance later, but it's conveniently going to also be worn to dinner.
That could end up poorly, but we'll find out.
It could.
Don't worry, I'm sure you won't sit next to somebody who will make a bumbling idiot of themselves and spill a bunch of, jambalaya all over you.
Well, she's just going to have to then wish really hard and hope it goes away with her prestidigitation.
Wink. Okay, so you have your dress. You're going to, I'm assuming you're going to go change into it at some point. Between there and there, anything else you want to get done before dinner?
Nope, that was really her only task. Probably right before dinner, she'd round up who's ever in camp. Like if she sees Corona, Titan, Lilith, she'd be like, I'm heading over for dinner.
Be the one to get people.
Yeah.
Okay.
She might be, would anybody know that Roz had already gone there? Because she might spend some time looking for Roz and be like, I can't find her.
I mean, other than the fact that it might be hard pressed to believe Roz would miss the thing she was invited to first, but did Roz tell anybody?
No.
Well then.
Okay. Well then Audie would spend some time looking for Roz and be like, well, she's not at camp. Good luck.
Yeah, Audie, you can either make a here's a fun one. We'll do a charisma investigation check. So it's gonna be a +6. And this is going to be your asking around of people to try to figure out where Roz has gone off to.
24.
Yeah. You do eventually find out that she headed to the other side of the camp where the other mercenary companies are set up. So you have a suspicion she might already be there or talking to somebody else, but you definitely know she's within a position to probably be at dinner.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Quinn, Jiao. Who's going to pass it off to who first?
Lilith is pretty simple.
Yeah, okay.
She's going to spend like 30 minutes doing up her hair and getting makeup on.
Very nice.
Because she is, at the very least, somewhat trained in social etiquette.
And also bonded to a woman who really appreciates well-done makeup.
Yes. And then much like Audie, she's going to realize that her current options of a wardrobe is armor or a barmaid dress that she's been wearing anytime she hasn't been in armor that she trudged through the wilderness with.
Fair. So yeah, even if that would have been normally okay, it's in a little need of repair. So yeah, all right, Lilith is going to go do some clothes shopping then.
Yep, she is going to head over to the market and see if she can find anything for decently cheap. Preferring some kind of elven style.
Let's see, yeah, any requirements other than it being elven? Color, cut?
something light and movable. She
Hmm.
doesn't care too much whether it's what the color is, so she prefers darker colors.
Right. Okay. Yeah. A lot of elven fashion tends to be very focused on the type of cloth that it's made with, and because of the terrain you all live in and the temperament of the weather, it tends to be very loose and kind of billowy and open. So just make a percentile die roll, and we'll see how close to your ideal clothing option we can find.
86.
Wow, you guys are crushing it. The percentile dice are feeling generous tonight. Yeah, so you do manage to find something. They have a small. Actually, no, it's not that small. It's probably one of the larger in terms of cultural clothing sections they have for elven clothes. Due to, well, you're in Saphinus, and so you suspect that they probably were able to grab a bunch of these because they were local. But yeah, you can find something. You have your run of choices for color. Uh, Dark colors and brighter colors of the kind of the usual rainbow gamut. So you can have your pick. Just want Lilith blue. It's there.
No, it's too much blue. She'll go for something black.
Ooh. Yeah, quite contrasting. I mean, other than to Lilith in general, they had one of these because traditional elven clothing is usually very colorful and bright. Much in contrast to Lilith's general style choices. And so this one black one stands out quite a bit. Do you wish to engage in any haggling, or is Lilith, like, every time she's been here, just going to give them their money?
She'll see if she can get them a little bit lower. She's not entirely confident in her ability to haggle, but also they're selling dresses in a war camp, so
Yep. It's 3 silver. Made right
she'll
here.
see if she can get it for 2.
Yeah, made right here in Saphinus. Quality materials. Expert elven craftsmanship. So roll away. Persuasion check.
She's just going to say, and what great advertising it would be to have a young, beautiful elf sporting it around the camp for you. Sorry, you said persuasion?
Yeah.
5.
I didn't want it to be single digits, but it was going to be funny if it was.
There's a little bit too long of a pause between young and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And the merchant just sits there, and they were all smiles when you're like, well, yeah, but what about, spokesmodel? And then they just kind of get a really flat look. It's 3 silver, take it or leave it.
She puts the 3 silver on the counter.
Mm-hmm. And then they go back to all smiles. They take it, they store it, and then they wrap the dress up for you.
Have a nice day. She's just gonna take it and leave.
Well then. And
Quickly go get changed and
yeah,
probably be caught by Audie when she's gathering people.
fair enough. Well then, while Audie is catching people, last but not least, Corona. Any pre-dinner preparations?
Nothing too crazy, really. Unlike everyone else, she probably doesn't see herself having dinner with these folks on the regular. So she figures that they'll hopefully understand if she's not coming in all fancy. She's probably just going to be going in with her the undershirt of her scale mill, which she'll after coming back she'll tend to her stuff on the regular anyway, and she'll hope that with the bath and everything that we have, that the smells and all that will be more than enough. She'll probably just comb her hair a little bit to make sure that it's not like matted or anything, since it's pretty long. But other than that, she's really just going to be going there pretty casual. The only thing she will take with her is probably, let me just double check. Yeah, it's probably just going to be the little bag of orange amber candies.
Okay.
And other than that, she's just letting her mom and pop know that she's been invited, and they're probably the ones that push her to actually go because she's probably a little indecisive about it. But
They do.
yeah,
Go on,
and
get out, get to know people,
go on,
make some friends. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, that's she'll probably be caught by Adi as well.
Okay. In which case, Adi, you have wrangled everybody.
Excellent. And she is delightfully skipping over to the Immortal Bastion.
And it doesn't take you long to get there. And you arrive. There's a scent of a hot meal being prepared. It is filled with the saltiness of seafood, along with an undercurrent of several different types of spices. You can tell there's been some baked goods made, and there's just this amazing smell just kind of floating in the air. You can see most people that are in this camp are gathered towards the central tent that has it's quite big. It's long. Two large flaps up front have been pinned off to the sides, and you can see there is currently a long table draped with a tablecloth would probably be generous. Upon closer inspection, when you get there, you'll realize it's probably just another tent. But it has been laid out with a bunch of tin dishware and tin utensils, cups, and you can see across the tables a spread of various things like fresh cut fruits, vegetables. There are a couple of baskets of what look like steaming biscuits. And as you guys kind of make your way to the entrance and the first few tentative steps in, you are greeted by one of the members of the camp. This person is a pale-skinned elf with stark black hair. Almost albino in terms of how pale he is. Has a very like thin set smile that only kind of just lightly turns up at the corners when you come in. He greets you, and then will sort of gesture. Welcome to the camp. I'm going to assume you are Roswin's companions that have been invited for dinner. Follow me to the main tent there.
As we're being let in, we're just gonna turn to Adi and just say, "That dress looks so good."
Thank you. You're swell.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Roz, while you were here, you learned a few things. Some of them might not have stuck, but you appreciate the amount of effort that the people here in this camp were going through to welcome strangers into their camp for dinner. Everything was painstakingly made by hand. Stephen helped you, had you help him make the, 4 dozen hand-rolled biscuits. And he instructed you on the process of, working the dough, laminating it with butter in order to make particularly flaky biscuits. And it required quite a bit of upper body strength, so he insisted that you learn how to do it, because he basically has one of those moments where he stops and he flexes his guns, and the man is jacked. And he just goes, and you can have arms like me one day too if you just make enough biscuits. There are like 2 different types. There's a type of stew, a type of soup, a couple of whole roasted fish that have been treated with herbs and lemon. There are a bunch of open-shelled clams that have been dressed with breadcrumbs and bacon. There are likewise, let's see, we've got the stew, we've got the soup, the whole cooked fishes that were steam baked under hot coals and banana leaves. We've got and there's also a quarter of a boar that was roasted on a spit. The skin of which was removed, and then boiling oil was poured over it and made crackling. And the whole time, during the process, while working in the kitchen, especially closer to dinner time, Roz, you were able to meet pretty much everybody. At some point or another, everybody in the Immortal Bastion camp made a point of coming to introduce themselves to you. Which you get an idea that about half of the members here are humans. And you kind of get a pretty good idea of the relationship between them and like Lucilla and Lucius, and that they all know each other and have known each other for a very long time. And there are several others. There's two Aurea, Giantkin. There's Pamaris, the Atasi elf that just welcomed in the rest of the group. There's a wildling with bear-like traits, who is actually the only person here that is taller than Lucius. Literally the biggest bear of a man that could exist. And there's also a teal-skinned colored orc by Tandon, who was responsible for helping set the table and is relatively chatty. Everybody here, other than perhaps Pamaris the elf, even by comparison, he's still very welcoming and sociable, just quieter by comparison to others. But everyone here is extremely nice. And just like always striking up a conversation if you're not talking to somebody else at some point. So you get a pretty good feel for all these people, and that they probably all do this all the time, just talking to one another, getting to know one another, just sort of always having that sort of open dialogue. And you're sort of getting a reflection as to where this comes from based off of the interactions you've had with Lucilla so far. But everyone arrives. The spread on the table has been arranged. There are seats for everybody. Let's see, there's 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, and then with the party, 16 seats in total. A funny little affectation that everybody would eventually realize throughout the course of the night, but I think Corona, because your general perception being higher, you notice first, which is this long table everyone's eating at is actually 2 of their training tower shields upended and then covered with canvas.
Oh wow. Okay.
But everything looks very thoughtfully prepared. Things are arranged in a way for people just sort of to take or to pass. Everyone's kind of standing at their chairs when you all arrive. As you sort of trickle in and people are still setting things on the table, everyone gives you a smile or hey or a welcome. Even from Bryce, the other Aurea in the camp, she gives probably it's Corona, given that Corona stature is the one that looks like it could receive it well. A good just kind of slap on the shoulder and welcome to the camp. Because the one thing, regardless of your passive perception here, that is very clear about every person in this camp, and that they are all physically fit, and that they all dress pretty plainly. Like I said, with Lucius being just the highlight, and the reason why I haven't dove into any further detail is because they tend to just keep to very basic, like white linen shirts and a simple sort of type of canvas pant or leather trouser, and then just boots that are, or shoes that are practical and good for wearing in the weather that they're in, which is an example of, you could tell those that have been working or have been wearing boots, and those that haven't been have open-toed sandals. But there's a little bit of socializing that begins in the beginning. Eventually, when the last thing is brought out and you're kind of done with your duties, Roz, in the kitchen, you are shooed away to go talk to your friends that have arrived to help them get settled in. Or don't.
Yes, yes, getting settled in, absolutely. Ra's covered in various spices and probably butter and dough and water. She's, by contrast to Lilith and Audie, who look incredible, Roz looks like she's been working in a kitchen for the last hour and has been getting as much food on herself as actually preparing it.
Isn't I passing you just before you went to the bus?
I have never worked in that kind of a kitchen before, all right?
Audie is looking very amused. Just kind of,
And Roz just
Okay.
sticks her tongue out at Audie.
and she returns it.
You know, it would have been nice to be told ahead of time what type of dinner we were having.
I didn't know. Fact is, I'm pretty sure these are shields.
Yeah, they are. I'm not complaining. They're dressed pretty plainly like me.
They're
What's
trying
practical?
so hard. You didn't see the food back there. I've never seen most of those.
No? What are they making?
Well, one of them was like a bug, but really big and red. It's kind of like claws on the front.
We'll stare at Roz for like 5 full seconds before realizing why Roz wouldn't know what a lobster is.
Yeah. Versus somebody from Saphinus who goes, wait, obviously.
Well, it seems very happy. Oh, they're serving lobster. I guess we're pretty close to the ocean.
Right, that's what it was. Lobster. And they got those biscuits and there's lots of spices and all that. I don't know that I've had spices like this before, so I'm worried, but I'll get through it.
Oh, you're going to love it.
Never really had seafood. Fish look appetizing enough, but bugs?
They're not bugs, but they look a little weird, but they're delicious, trust me.
They're absolutely bugs. You haven't even seen their eyes yet.
Tasty bugs.
They're bugs, but from the ocean.
But they're tasty bugs.
Are they?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was looking at the shells and those don't look appetizing at all.
You don't eat the shell.
Oh, thank goodness.
I mean, you probably could eat the shell, but you shouldn't eat the shell.
I don't want to eat the shell. Looks like wood. Or glass. Neither of those are appetizing.
Corona, while you're there and Raza's shown up and you're all talking, as you're talking about as they're talking about lobsters and details of them, you do notice an occasional member of the Bastion that's sort of there again, getting things arranged on the table or keeping things organized. Those aren't just kind of idly waiting for dinner to begin. You see as some that are sort of walking by and catch an earful of the conversation, they kind of they chuckle at the reaction, but you could clearly it's not like malicious or anything. It's just it's lighthearted because they walk away with like a grin.
Suppose I'll just have to wait and see what it looks like. Smells good at least.
If you get some on your plate and you can't figure out how to eat it, just ask for some help. I'll show you.
All right.
It isn't too long. Striding in to the front of this tent, near where all of you are currently engaged in some conversation, a woman with platinum blonde hair and bright green eyes, who's got a little bit of a flower kind of pattern stuck to her where her apron was, so you can kind of see the edges of it on her clothes, is Lucilla. And she comes in, immediately sort of like walks just to the side of the group and then immediately turns into you to join the circle. She has kind of like she's got like a smaller nose, high cheekbones. She has like this rosy red complexion in her face, either from working in the kitchen or naturally, you're uncertain. But she gives you just a smile that is disarming and very warm as she turns to see all of you for the first time. Well, you must all be Roz's friends. Welcome. I'm Lucilla. My brother, who you'll see at some point, who looks a little bit like me, just taller and more muscular, is Lucius. And we'll kind of introduce everybody as the chance arrives. Nice to meet you, first of all. The handshakes, hugs, nods of respect. Do you have a preference?
It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for having us. We'll hold out a hand.
Mm-hmm. She
I'm
will
Lilith.
accept it. Nice to meet you, Lilith.
You said hugs were acceptable.
She nods, and then just kind of like half opens her arms, like,
Audie rushes in.
Mm-hmm. Oh, aren't you just the sweetest thing?
Nice to meet you, Lucilla. I'm Melody.
Nice to meet you, Melody. And you?
Corona extends her hand and she says, Corona Wilder, thanks for the invitation. It looks like quite an event.
Of course. Well, a friend of Roz is a friend of ours, and she takes her hand and shakes. For those of you that shook her hand, you would realize, despite her stature and despite her appearance, she has a decently firm shake, and her hands are pretty calloused. Well, like I said, welcome to our camp. We've prepared some dishes from our homeland, so we hope you enjoy them. Do you all want to sit to one side of the table, or do you want to sit facing each other? Or would you rather just pick at random?
Does it matter?
It depends on who you want to sit next to.
I've got no preference personally.
And just bear in mind, if you don't pick, there is a chance you end up sitting next to my brother. And while he is lovely, he's very intimidating.
He is not lovely. He is intimidating. Nice guy. Not lovely.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that intimidates me.
I think Audie just volunteered to sit beside your brother.
I'm perfectly fine with that. Like I said, I think he's lovely.
If you put us all amongst your friends here, I think the others would have to talk. You'd actually have to make friends and get to know people.
I know we can't just lean on Audie to do all the talking for us.
Is that something you all are struggling with? Making social contact and light conversation with people?
Well, no, personally, but I lack social grace, so I just kind of talk.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, you noticed.
She smiles at you. Well, then, how about this? Give me a second. And she turns and she kind of half jogs out of the tent. And she returns about 40 seconds later after a couple more members of the Bastion have trickled in and give you, hey, hello, a nod, smile. And she comes back with a small little leather bag. And she kind of jingles it in front of you. And for those of keen of hearing, you would be able to tell it's a bunch of stones clacking around inside. All right. Believe it or not, this isn't the first time we've done this. If anything, it's actually one of our favorite rituals to engage in. All right, just stay right here. And she kind of steps off to the side, and she kind of clears her throat. And she's not loud of voice, but almost everybody, when she clears her throat, kind of ceases what they were doing and turns to look at Lucilla. It is right around this time, right before she's about to speak, that you see Lucius kind of take the initial step into the tent, where he just sort of stands off to the side where you all are standing. He appraises all of you quickly and then turns his attention back to his sister. It is worth mentioning he is not currently carrying a weapon. As a matter of fact, no one else is. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work preparing the food today and getting everything ready for our guests. And she gestures to the group of you. Thanks to Roz for helping us make our food and willing to learn and suffer with us under the fire and Steven's tutelage. And you hear several of the members of the Bastion laugh. Since it seems like there isn't any fear here in the group, we've decided to randomly assign our seats. And so we're going to draw stones, and you're going to get a color, and whatever color you get, you're going to have to sit next to the person whose color that stone shares. So there's one stone, two colors on it, and the color of the side is the color of the stone who's sitting next to you. That makes sense? That's mostly for all of you. Everyone else here knows the bit by now.
Got it. Pick stone.
Yeah.
Audie's nodding.
Well, since you all are our guests, come grab your stone. And you see her shaking the bag vigorously, and then the first of you that comes up, she opens it up.
Well, Roz has absolutely no fear whatsoever. Let's do it. Let's grab a stone.
Okay. You grab a stone. Roll a d20 for me.
Okay. 8.
8. Okay. So I for the record, I didn't have any of this prepared in advance, so the colors are sort of arbitrary in the fact that they're just going to work out. Who is next to grab a stone? I'll get your seating arrangement ready in a moment.
Audie would be pretty eager.
Okay, Audie second. Roll a d20 for me.
A 15.
15. Who's next?
Oh, we'll step up.
Okay. Roll me a d20. I think you.
I got a 1.
Ooh.
Okay. And last but not least, Corona.
Yep. 10.
10. Wow, really good representation here from the dice. Just good widespread. However, we're a little bit past our halfway point. So this is a perfect opportunity for us to take a 10-minute break while I figure out the seating arrangement so we can come back and everyone can have a lovely dinner together. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. See you then. And we're back with no prompting whatsoever. Yes, hello, great. I need to make sure that I haven't actually thought about this, is that I have a stream view. Basically, I have a Foundry just overlaid behind everything on this particular UI for the sake of audio going through, and I just come to I just realized that when I switch back and forth between it, it might need to be reopened. But nope, looks fine. Very good. It did need a refresh. I was right. Okay. So you were all gathered in this tent in the Immortal Bastion camp, surrounded by all of their members, dressed very modestly, very plainly. You've been welcomed with open arms, greeted with smiles, handshakes, pats on the back. You've been brought to their central large tent, which has been arranged with these 2 enormous slabs of wood that act as tables, which some of you have come to realize are 2 training tower shields that they have. The table setting is fairly again humble, in that there is a tablecloth, but you think it is probably just a spare canvas length that could be used for a tent, and it's set with a bunch of well-loved tin plates and utensils and cups. The spread of food, which Roswin helped make, is, by comparison to what is in the rest of the camp, extravagant, but it is made with considerable effort and love, of which many of their ingredients were harvested or caught by members of the Immortal Bastion during a trip to the beach that they took at some point in preparation for this meal. They had extended to Roz and the party. Before we left, Lucilla had come back with a leather satchel filled with a bunch of half and half colored stones, which you would find the matching halves of your stone to determine who you're sitting next to. Over the break, I figured out the seating arrangement. And as you were all going to find your matching stone buddies, Lucilla ends up to the far side of the tent, where she's standing over a small, folding wooden table. It's maybe only 3 by 3, quite small. And there appears to be a redwood polished box on top of it. And she stands in front of it and she's fiddling with it at some point as you were all finding your now assigned seats. Which is to say, I will post it in the chat. So based off of just kind of, we used a d20 roll, 1 through assortment of number, has determined your seating arrangement. No one is sitting at the head or end of the table. Everyone is sitting across from somebody. So there are 8 people to a side, which normally would have been 8 people, but Titan is not here with us, so there's technically an empty seat. And in order from starting in position 1 to ending in position 15 is Lilith, then Steven, then Watches the Stars, Tandon, Roz, Lucius, Corona, Lucilla, Julia, Melody, Pomaris, Timber, Bryca, Caius, and then Jax. A good smattering in the arrangement of the party members throughout all the other strangers that they've not met. I can't count, because I believe the table break 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the table break actually separates Corona and Lucilla. So Lucilla is sitting on the corner opposite of Corona. Just so that is clear. And then it would proceed. But as you all find in your seating arrangements, and everyone's settling in and getting comfortable and smiling at one another and looking at the food, and you can hear people making comments of appreciation, mentions of past times or how long it's been since they've had something like this, and everyone's quite excited. Eventually, when it appears Lucilla's finished with whatever it is she's doing over yonder on the far side of the tent, she turns, and she kind of claps her hands together in an excited gesture. She steps up to the tent. She steps up to the table. As I already said, I would like to just thank everyone for being here tonight, and for our guests for wanting to arrive and be with us to partake of this food that has had much effort and love put into it. For our guests, we have a small tradition here. While we eat, we play music. And while there are a few amongst us that can play instruments because we want everyone to be able to eat and enjoy one another's company, we have come across this marvelous device that we have sought music for over our journeys. And she sort of steps aside, and behind on that small table, the redwood box is now opened up, revealing inside a series of fine bronze clockwork mechanisms. And then she holds up what looks like a series of small, either metal or like brushed metal cards that have several small sections of them punched out in various rows. Over the course of the evening, the music will change, but these are what we have found, and they help us remind us of the things we've gone through and the experiences we've had. And we like to share these with people whenever we get an opportunity to. So please enjoy. And she turns around, and you see her kind of pluck a card out of the pile. And the first one that she puts in is very bright, with flutes and chimes and perhaps even a xylophone in there. Tambourine. She turns and then she smiles at everybody once the music begins to play, and she walks over to her seat. And then she just has a moment where she's standing in front of her seat before sitting down, and then just kind of out loud, provide us with a small moment of silence for each of us to offer our thanks and our prayers to those who wish to do so. And once that is done, we can begin eating. And you all observe as she sits down and she scooches her chair in. All of the members of the Bastion have a moment. They stop and they bow their heads in silence and cup their hands together. And you can tell that each and every one of them kind of offers up a prayer. Does anybody follow suit? Like, does anybody have a prayer that they would give to any particular being that they would give respects to? Or are you just politely waiting?
I think Chrono, and I don't know if she'd be dedicating it to a specific being or title bearer or anything, but I think if nothing else, I think she'd be giving just the silent prayer of thanks for the food, etc., etc. This kind of reminds her of maybe when she was younger, and you'd go to a friend's house or something, and experience that while they're eating dinner. But yeah, she's just giving a silent prayer.
Okay.
Yeah, I imagine Audie would probably have a brief contemplation. Probably actually thinking about the dinners that she had with her family and thinking back a bit to Greenwood to steel her resolve for the coming days.
Okay.
Lilith would probably offer up a traditional old does, just kind of assuming that they have something that they typically say before a meal.
The all does have a saying for just about everything before anything.
Oh, she definitely got taught all of them by her father.
Yep.
She memorized all of them.
Yep, they are spoken word kind of people.
Well, Roswin has not prayed to the bearers in a very long time, and in that time when she has, it's been almost entirely lip service. This is not unfamiliar for her, but this is just a moment of silence while everyone else does their thing, waiting for food.
Yep. All right. A few moments pass by, and it is then when you hear Lucius pipe up and go, "Everyone enjoy your meal." And then everything is a clatter of plates and platters and dishes as people reach for things that they want. Some will handle, larger platters and then lean over to their compatriot near them and offer a serving of it. Is anybody eyeing anything in particular? Are you taking the lead of those you're sitting next to?
Roswin is determined to figure out how to eat a lobster, so she has taken one whole and is trying to break it apart with her bare hands.
Which I think is very funny because Roz, you're in between Tandon, and Orc are a seafaring people, and Lucius on the other side, and they both have distinctly different ways of handling shellfish. In which Lucius does what you're trying to do, which is he cracks the whole like meat of the claw with his bare hands, and then you see like he just slides out the whole piece of meat, slathers it in butter, and then eats it. Versus Tandon, the orc next to you, he takes like the tail of the lobster, and he actually cracks part of its shell on one of his tusks, and he uses it to anchor it off, and pulls out all the flesh, just leaving the husk of the shell sitting in his hand with the meat dangling off his tusk, and he kind of takes it off and catches your eye and kind of sheepishly goes, "Oh, sorry, I showed you an unseemly side of me."
Roz absolutely does not care. When she eventually manages to crack enough of the lobster open that she can see meat, she puts her face between the broken pieces and starts slurping meat directly out. Because that's all she can figure out.
I think after you start, you just get a tap on your forearm. It's Lucius. Do you need some help with that?
I got it.
You sure?
No.
Have you eaten any of the shell yet?
I spat it out.
That's for the best. It's really awful coming out.
It tastes like glass.
Pretty similar.
Uh-huh.
The shell's tougher usually.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying. I will figure this out. I just... Not getting much context from sitting between the two of you because you're much larger than me.
I can show you. It isn't all about brute strength.
Okay, that would be nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And he basically kind of, again, he's got very long arms. He's sitting in, like, everyone's kind of like sitting in stools with backs. But his, along with Timber's, their seats are much bigger and reinforced with like iron braces to accommodate their size and weight. And he reaches over and he kind of like turns the lobster off to the side, and he just sort of gestures to like the claw on the arm, and he goes, "All right, so you're going to want to start at the joint here, and you're going to want to remove it. It's fairly simple. You need to get a firm grip closer to where the arm meets the lobster, and then you need to turn and pull. It'll kind of crack a few times, and it should come loose. From there, the best part of this is the meat inside the claw. You basically need to, when eating any type of shellfish like this, you just need to break it down a little bit at a time and then remove sections of it. Then probably enjoy yourself before you move on to the next one. It's a bit of a chore if you're not used to it. For people like us that live closer to the ocean, it becomes second nature. And he'll show you, a couple of ways to, crack open the lobster in varying sections, using his as an example for you to follow with yours.
And Roz is very good at listening, and she finally manages to consume a lobster.
It takes a while, but you get there. And what does Roz think of a lobster?
It's fine. It's not worth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
She's put in all this effort. She's not willing to say that she thinks it's not that great. So she just smiles and says thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Now she's got her eyes on that gumbo, which is going to be a mistake to make later.
That's fair. Anybody else? Any highlights of the food, or perhaps a conversation starter with one of your neighbors?
I think that Corona would probably be leaning in from the other side, looking past Lucius, over to Roz as she's like doing her thing. But
it's a show.
Yeah, but like once he actually starts like explaining like how it's done, I think Corona would probably just reach over to kind of get a solid helping of, like, you know, as much as she can on her plate, just to try out as many things as possible
Okay.
without getting in the way. You know, like a biscuit and
Yeah,
some
well,
of the gumbo.
to get a little bit of everything, it is a slight collaborative effort. Because everything is spread across the table, and kind of like at a big holiday dinner, things kind of have to make their way around.
Yeah.
But since you're sitting opposite Lucilla, it's not hard. She indirectly facilitates because she also wants a little bit of everything, and it just so happens when doing so, she then hands everything directly over to you. Perhaps even sensing that you were just trying to, try everything.
Mm-hmm.
To which she also then insists, like, oh, you should try this with this. And definitely squeeze some lemon on that. It really makes it bring out the brightness of it.
I appreciate the tips. I never really had anything like this.
You from somewhere you don't get fresh seafood often?
Yeah. We get plenty of people coming in and out of our little town. What was our town, but yeah. I mean, I never really ate much in the way of seafood. Just heard about it.
Well, be sure to let us know what you think. We're not going to be offended if you don't like it.
I'll probably like it. It'll just take a bit getting used to. I kind of like the establishment as it is anyway. Feels homely.
Well, we are family here. So we try to keep everything as warm and comfortable as we can. And we likewise try to invite people over to share with us as we can afford to. Especially given the current circumstances that everyone finds themselves in. It's good to have a little camaraderie.
Well, I think that can go appreciated no matter who you ask.
Agreed.
By the way, I don't mean to impose, but is there gonna be some sort of dessert later?
She nods with a grin. There is. We've prepared something. What? Do you have any allergies or anything?
No, not really. It's not much, but I brought something that came from the Greenskeeper. If you're familiar with the name,
the very powerful spirit in the forest above us. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You have something from the Greenskeeper?
Well, it's just a couple of treats. It's nothing much, but I didn't want to come empty-handed, so in a pinch, it does for a nice little dessert. Figured I'd pass some out if there wasn't anything.
Oh,
and if there is, then
very considerate of you.
Sure, it's nothing. I'll just let me know when to toss them off to you if you'd like to hand them off.
Yeah, we'll review it when we get a little closer to dessert.
Sure thing. And I think with that, Krona's gonna continue kind of like grabbing stuff, here and there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I guess Melody, Lilith, any particular thing that you're doing? Anything you're trying, or any obvious problems you're perhaps struggling with that might draw attention to you?
I think Lilith is doing much the same of Corona. She hasn't eaten a lot of this food in a long time, so she's getting a little bit of everything. So it reminds her of home. But she's happy to make small talk with Steven or Jax if either of them seem interested.
Both do. This tent is filled with conversation. Even just the members of the Bastion are holding pretty lively conversations amongst themselves, even though you clearly tell they spend every day with one another. So yes, Stephen and Jax both are more than happy to strike up a conversation with you. I think the thing that gets kind of driven to the front, which Stephen politely sort of talks around, but then Jax, much to his more fiery nature, just kind of goes, "So, you from a big elven family? Kind of. Your manners definitely tell us that you're from somebody who's been trained in the etiquette. So,
yes. Well, first of all, my friend Roz didn't tell us what kind of dinner this was. She kind of like leans forward to glare at Roz a little bit.
Roz has a lobster tail in her mouth as you speak.
Yep.
And admittedly, I made a bit of an assumption, considering how, well, you all have a very good reputation.
What kind of reputation are you talking about? Do we look like a fine dining type of folk?
No, you have a good reputation. I've only ever really heard good things about all of you. So I wanted to make a good impression.
Jax kind of puffs up a bit.
But if you are curious, I am the youngest daughter of the Aelana family.
Checks. You see Jax kind of scrunches, his red-orange brow. No, can't say that rings a bell. But then Steven, who's sitting next to you, who is, like, he's reserved, but, like, has a very strong presence. Like, he speaks very politely, he speaks fairly proper, is not, like, a messy eater. I'll go, right, I've heard of your family. Very well regarded. The matron is one of the world's most talented warriors from the tales that travel about. It's an honor to have you with us.
You don't need to treat me any different. At the moment, I'm nothing more than just another mercenary.
You see Jax leans in on an elbow with a fork with a piece of fish on the end of it, and he kind of jams into his mouth. And why is that? Why is someone from such a prestigious family here?
That's a bit of a long story. I'm more curious to find out what drew both of you to the Immortal Bastions.
Oh. Fair, tit for tat, alright. Me, personally, I was, dying on the side of the road. And, when everything around me was going black, and I started to hear wolf howls, I was suddenly brought back to life. And standing above me were two bright countenances and smiles that were extremely warm like the sun, and it was Lucilla and Lucius. So they saved my life, and so I've just been following them ever since. Kind of like a love-struck puppy dog. And then Steven, who's just like sitting there again, very politely eating, using a fork and knife, just kind of carefully carving out bits for himself to eat. I've known Lucius and Lucilla since they were kids. When they left home, I left with them.
I take it that a lot of the people here probably have stories similar to the both of you.
Yeah, for the most part. You see Jax kind of like lean back, and he takes his fork, and he points at He points at Stephen, Julia, and Caius. Goes, those three came with Lucille and they all know each other. Some of them grew up. Stephen was their uncle. The others were neighbors that they grew up with. And then he points at Watches the Stars, himself, Bryca, Pamaris, Timber, and Tandon. And yeah, we in one way, shape, or form were either saved by them or crossed paths with them and decided, instead of what they were currently doing, that it was better to follow them. And here we all are. This is where our journey's taken us thus far.
Sounds like your company doesn't have that dissimilar of a start as to us from Greenwood. But I can understand why this entire dinner seems to have a very close-knit family vibe.
Well, it would be maybe too simple to say that we would die for one another. And he stares at you very dramatically.
But could you live for one another?
We do every day. That's our secret. Anyway, it's really nice here. People are lovely. Wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Honestly, if I had other family to go back to, I probably would have been left for dead in that ditch. Don't mind Jax. He's a little overdramatic. We think he got his head hit a little too hard when they found him and they healed him wrong.
Nothing wrong with the flair for dramatic.
See? Steven, she gets it. It's alright to be a little dramatic from time to time. I don't let it get in the way of my duties, do I? You know, I wanted to be a thespian one day. But now I'm a mercenary, so there's that.
You could be a dramatic mercenary.
Oh. That I am. And you hear Steven go, yeah, he is. What about you, Lilith? You come from a warrior's bloodline, but you're here in the mercenary camp. What do you want to be?
An archaeologist.
Oh. And Steven turns and kind of looks up from his meal at you. Is that the reason why you're in a mercenary camp?
Technically, yes. My first expedition didn't go so great, and I ended up being rescued by some of the people of Greenwood. Decided to stay for a while.
You ever plan on taking up the mantle your mother's left there?
I think my siblings have probably got that handled.
Hmm.
It's a lot to live up to.
You just see him nod a few times. Well, I say good for you, striking out from the family business. I mean, it's a little gruesome anyway, isn't it? Who wants to make their entire livelihood about killing others? I realize what I've said is very ironic. For what it's worth, we attempt not to kill everybody we come across. Just those that won't listen to reason.
Well, for what it's worth, I think my family does about the same. At least I don't have any memories of my mother going around indiscriminately killing anyone.
I suppose you would know better than anyone else. Although, would you be recklessly telling anybody if you did know your mother was secretly a serial killer? I don't think so.
I think you'll find that I'm a horrible liar, and you probably would have noticed if I was.
I don't believe you, he says, rolling a natural 1 on insight. He leans over and pokes Kaya's with his elbow. Her mother's a serial killer. Pass it on. Caius immediately turns around and just kind of, with the flat of a curled fist, just bonks him on the top of the head. Stop that. Don't go spreading rumors like that. You don't do that about people. That's just mean. That's slanderous. Besides, you wouldn't want to piss her off, would you? Good point. Pass it on anyway. He gets bonked again.
You know, if you get a chance once we're not sitting here, you should go talk to Roz. I think you two would get along.
When the opportunity presents itself, I'll do just that. But out of curiosity, why?
You both speak your mind.
It's a good quality to have. Makes you honest. Unlike you. Watching you. And your serial killer for a mother.
Maybe it's not my mother.
Are you the serial killer?
I'll never tell.
I knew it. Anyway, we're going to cut to Melody now.
That was quite enjoyable. Yeah, Audie sitting across from Roz, very much enjoying Roz trying to figure out how to eat a lobster.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of goes about it the way that that Lucius does. She doesn't have a ton of experience, but more than Roz has.
Yep.
And so is it's reasonably competent with how to eat what is in front of her. But she too, like most of the party, really wants to try everything. So she's kind of taking a little bit of all of it just to really absorb it. And likewise kind of and likewise kind of talking to the people around her, how'd you get here along with Bastion? Kind of making general small talk. She's very interested in and not shy about it. So
well, to your left, Julia. Well, if you believe it or not, I grew up with Lucius and Lucilla, and Caius over there. We were all neighbors, and when they left, we just all left together, and it's just sort of history from there.
So they've always been a search you could just follow into battle.
Well, unfortunately, when you say it like that, you kind of nailed it on the head. Yeah. That was sort of the deciding factor as to why a lot of us left. And if you're curious, you might notice no one here will introduce themselves with a surname or family name. Part of our culture where we left from, leaving it implies giving up your family name because you're willingly stepping outside of it. And so we just only have first names. And those of us that have followed us thereafter have kind of followed to do the same, so yeah. In case you ever started wondering, when everyone was introducing themselves, you never got a proper formal greeting. It wasn't because we were being rude or protective. Just not who we are. Literally.
Does that make you sad?
At first it did, not anymore.
Whatever, he's fine.
Yes, exactly. We gave them up for good reason. What we lost versus what we gained far outweighs the comparison. Eventually, on the other side, Pamaris, the near albino Atassi elf, who's softer spoken by comparison to most people here. He's also very well versed in consuming shellfish competently, and who is not nearly as muscly as everyone else, because several of the people here are able to just sort of crack lobsters barehanded. But he does so with purely utensils and a small wooden mallet, which he does everything very gingerly. And for the parts that are tougher for you, he'll help lead you through it. For most elves, it's normal for us to understand how to do this sort of thing, since if you grew up in Saphinus, seafood's pretty common. Unfortunately, I didn't actually get to spend most of my childhood here, even though I am from the southern parts of Saphinus. I came about being in the Bastion after Lucilla and Lucius and their company found me and several others in indentured servitude to an Albion noble out west. And what was once previously still a somewhat held together Novagard. When they freed us all, I decided to stick with them, and they welcomed me. But they made sure that we had a chance to experience this, since this is pretty common from where they're from as well. So.
Sounds like a happy story for you then to be here too.
I don't think you'll find anyone at this table that is sad to be here. Although I can't speak for you and your friends. But those of us in the Bastion are all glad to be here.
Well, I know I can speak for myself, and I'm delighted to be here.
The formal invitation to stop by anytime will probably be given after. But so far, I think you and your friends are leaving a positive impression.
Well, I'm sure when we have a home to share, we'll extend the same greeting.
When time allows for it, I'm sure the Bastion will answer. And dinner will continue on for a little bit. About an hour or so. As things get passed around, conversation is had in between bites. People learn how to consume certain types of food they experience for the first time. Others get to taste exotic cuisine and different types of spices in ways they've never experienced before. And it is all well-made food. Unless it is not to your taste, which is more of a you problem. But after it's become very clear that much of the food has been cleared from platters and dishes, Lilith, you will see Stephen politely excuses himself, his plate completely clear, minus a couple of fish bones and lobster shells and oysters. And he gets up and he takes his tray and his plate and his utensils with him. And same on the other side, Lucilla does the exact same thing, and they begin taking away the empty plates and platters and things that have been completely emptied first, and then grabbing those with remnants left and taking them off to the side, where the small kitchen preparation area is for the camp. At some point, Lucius will get up, and he'll walk over to the small music box, otherwise referred to as a bard in a box, as has once previously appeared in another campaign. And he'll pull out the card, and then he'll put in another. and then he'll walk up to the side of the table, kind of excuse himself, and reaches in to grab a handful more of the finished food and begin clearing plates. For those of you that are guests here, feel free to just sit and relax. Or if you need to get up and stretch, by all means. But allow us to take care of the clearing of the plates. It would be improper to have guests helping us in this part. We will be having a dessert shortly, though, so just bear with us for a little bit longer, and then we can let you go.
Insight check.
Go for it.
Does he
Poison
secretly
food.
think that would helping actually be a good thing?
Roll an insight check.
Check my modifier. Yes, plus 0, 14.
Well, Lucius doesn't look like a person that really is very duplicitous in nature. You think his statement is pretty honest, and what he means. And it only takes about 10 minutes, because eventually a couple of the other members get up and help start and clear stuff until eventually everything off the table has been completely moved.
For what it's worth, well, it doesn't help, but she will, arrange her own dishes that she used on the table in a way that makes them easy to gather.
Mm-hmm. A couple of minutes go by. The table has been completely cleared. There's a moment where they kind of remove all of the other little odds and ends, and they sweep the canvas away that has bits of fish and lemon juice and stew and soup and things that have been spilled on it, and they kind of sweep it away, revealing underneath the two large planks of iron banded wood that are being held aloft on what look like wooden sawhorses. And eventually they come back in, Lucilla and Lucius both. Lucius holding a new stack of plates, and with what looks like a bunch of forks haphazardly sliding around on the top, and Lucilla holding what looks like a large ceramic tray of something steaming, and as the wind kind of carries the scent into the air, it's sweet and citrusy. And she sits down on the end of the table, which is closest to where you are seated, Corona. And she sits it down, and she pulls out a kind of a flat, wide knife off of her belt, and she begins carving squares out of what looks like this large, bright yellow cake. And eventually, with that same knife, she begins kind of wedging out sections, and you see as she pulls it out, it's got kind of like a more orange-browned bottom and edges. The outside looks crispier, but the inside looks extremely moist. And she puts it on a plate. And then shortly thereafter, Steven comes in, and he's got a small, tin water pitcher. But you can tell it's got a little bit of something kind of steaming off of it. And so Lucilla puts a piece of cake onto a tin plate, and then Lucius holds the plate over to Steven, and he pours what looks like a thick, kind of like white frosting over top. Not so thick that it clearly couldn't be poured, but enough that you think once it starts to cool, it'll set. And they kind of quickly just go through this process, and a plate is... well, let's see. Lucius got up and Lucilla got up. We have Corona and then Roz, respectively, both. So you both receive a plate with cake on it first, as they begin serving others. Eventually, a plate is passed to everybody. And when it's sitting in front of you, because it's still very warm, you smell, like I said, it's citrusy, it's very lemony. You can tell it's sweet. And then with the heat coming off of the cake and the frosting that's there, that's kind of just running and filling in all the crevices, you get a bit of a like a floral hit of coconut. And once it's all sort of there, they didn't go like overly aggressive with the size of the slice. You know, it's respectable. And they pass the plates with the cake and the fork to everybody. And then they just have a moment where everyone has a plate. Lucilla serves a plate and hands it to Lucius. And he waits for her to finish the last one. Steven drizzles icing on the plate that Lucius is holding, and then he gives it back to Lucilla. And they sort of trade plates with the new slice that she gave, and he sort of, you know, gestures her back to her seat. And Steven pours the last piece for Lucius. And then he's sitting there holding it, and everyone's kind of clearly in the process of this ritual of serving the cake, and no one's really dove in yet. And then you see Lucius sort of turn, he looks at everyone and goes, "What are you waiting for? Eat." And there's just sort of like this reaction from all the other members of the Bastion where they kind of all smile, like this is something to them for some reason, you don't know why. And then everybody dives in. Yeah, and as previously described, the cake squares are, you know, 4 by 4 inches, extremely moist, you know, sharper baked edges that are, you know, bright orange, golden brown. It's lemon flavored with lemon zest, a little bit of acidity, and then dressed with a fairly simple coconut milk frosting that is kind of running off of the sides due to how warm the cake is. But everything altogether, it is very, very velvety and rich without it being overwhelming.
Well, I think once we dig in, Corona it isn't vocal about it, but you can tell that she really likes this just from the look on her face. And she is just, she doesn't chow down, she takes her time with it. Just taking small bites.
She savors it.
Yeah, she savors it.
Nice.
Lilith is doing much the same, both for politeness and because she wants it to last longer.
Mm-hmm.
Ross's is gone in probably about 3 seconds. Quickly enough that she turns to Lucius after he sits down and goes, with frosting on her lips, I didn't get one. But it's the shit-eating grin style of she's telling a very stupid, obvious lie meant to be funny to a guy who doesn't have much of a sense of humor.
And he looks at you with that same sort of stern look he's always had. He goes, "Well, that's a shame. Here, have mine." And he puts it in front of you and gets up to go get another.
Oh, so he does have a sense of humor. By the time he sits down again, it's already gone.
I believe it. Oh, well, would you look at that? I don't know how we keep missing you. Here, have mine.
You don't have to keep giving me yours.
He puts it down in front of you and goes back to get another.
All right.
Is he the big scary guy you were talking about?
You're going to make yourself sick, Rose.
It's so good, though.
It is. What is it anyway? It's delightful.
Lucilla just kind of looks across at you. Well, where we're from, we just called it a... She kind of smirks and laughs. We used to call it a basin cake, because she points at the ceramic dish that it's baked in. It looks like it's baked in a sink. But it's a fairly simple, like, lemon cake. Sometimes it'll have some different ingredients in it. Sometimes we'll use coconut in the cake itself. Sometimes the frosting will change. It really depends on what we have with us. But really the secret is just as long as we have some lemons and a little bit of sugar, we can make it. we can give you the recipe if you want. As a matter of fact, we're willing to share any of the recipes we made for you tonight if you like.
Well, I'm not much of a cook, but I'll definitely take that basin cake recipe.
Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll write it up for you tonight and bring it to your camp tomorrow.
No rush.
I wish
But
I knew
thank
anything. I wish I knew anything. My mom might give you something in return.
Well, it just seems like a good enough reason for me to come and visit your family. We can trade recipes then.
Wish we could make it for you, but you can always come and talk.
I'll take you up on that.
No, while we're on about it, I heard that there was going to be an absolutely lovely show going on at the Dusty Daisy later. And Roz will kind of look across the table at Audie and pick her shin. And we could all go and see it together after dinner.
There's a singer from Greenwood. Call her the Black Butterfly. She's alright.
And Audie will give a wink.
Make a deception check, Audie.
Before I look at that number, what is my addition?
Probably a 6.
That's a 5. It's a 14.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't take proficiency in it.
All right, that makes sense. Yeah, so you're saying there, you're all sort of talking that up, and you see Lucilla. She instantly brightens up even further, and she leans over the table and looking at Lucius. Oh, can we go? Can we? That sounds delightful. We haven't really been able to go to the tavern at all since we've been here. Then you see Lucius. And Roz, you see a stance that looks very familiar, where he crosses his arms and looks at you, and then looks at Audie. And he goes, "Yeah, Black Butterfly, huh?"
Roz will actually lower her voice and elbow him in the, I guess, pelvis, given his size.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Audie, but we're all kind of in on the joke.
Persuasion check.
You got it. I make lots of these. I should get proficiency in it at some point and retrain my intimidation. 15 persuasion.
That's really good. He looks at you, and then he glances over at his sister, who, again, looks extremely eager and excited to want to go. All right, sure. Let's see what this Black Butterfly is all about, then. Better live up to the hype.
Oh, she will. She will. Don't worry. I've seen every single one of her shows, and every single one of them's better than the last.
Yeah, for the record, the duality of twins. Lucilla rolled a 1 on Audie's insight versus her deception, versus Lucius rolled a 20. Oh, that reminds me, before we do head out to enjoy that show, I did this because we know that there are more people from Greenwood than just all of you, and you're welcome to deny it, but I don't think you will. We baked a second basin cake for you to take back to your camp. It'll feed about 30. I mean, a piece for 30 people each at least. So Hopefully it's enough.
Do we remember how many made it out with us?
There's an active head count somewhere.
I might have that in my notes. Sorry.
I think there's more than 30 because some trickled in after.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was 30 in our initial group.
I believe it's 40. I think it actually rounded out to be an exact 40.
I feel like I vaguely remember 40 as the number being brought up. Yeah.
And I guess Audie will just give a bit of a smile.
I'm sure we'll make it work.
Okay. We can also send you with any of the leftovers we have too. We know what the food situation's like in the camp right now, so we don't mind sharing.
I think they'd really appreciate that. We certainly all would. Our families haven't been eating anything more than magical porridge.
Whenever we go to the coast and do some fishing and harvesting, we'll try to bring back more than our share so we can share more. That's a very complicated sentence.
If you happen to be heading out to the coast sometime when we're not on a mission, I'd love to go with you. It's been a while since I've been to the ocean.
We can do that right after we come back from our next mission.
Yeah? Do you know what that mission is?
Yep. We just got it today, and it's a bit urgent, apparently.
Yeah?
Lucius turns and looks down at you. Yeah, you know exactly the mission, given that you're the ones that brought back the information.
Roz
Oh.
pales very quickly.
Yeah, Audie covers her mouth.
We are going to be alright with it.
We accepted it.
Terrifying.
We had a choice. We know what we're getting into. And when it comes to dealing with things from the Merc, we're probably the best suited out of the people here in the camp. Besides, it's not like we have to kill everything there, we just have to close the portal.
I, for one, am happy to know that that's being left in your hands.
Well, as
I agree.
scary as it is, we are uniquely qualified to deal with it. Mercurians, and the magic that my brother have, are exacting opposites. So, we repel them pretty handily.
Well, just do your best to keep the saber us alive. Willow seemed very insistent on that.
We were told about that too. And we will. We were told that there's a druid there that knows about the situation a bit better. We'll have him help us make sure we can get in to where the portal is without having to cause any problems.
He's a bit of a grumpy sort, but I think you'll be able to win him over pretty easily.
He might be a little bit less uptight, knowing that there's people out there willing to be a little bit more pacifist with the wildlife. Besides, we told him that we'd tell everyone else about the situation.
And he was with us when we discovered the portal, so I think he understands if something needs to be done.
We will do our best. And we'll make sure that the wolves are taken care of, hopefully survive, and the portal sealed. Because the last thing we need is a surprise attack from a bunch of Mercurians at our camp that's supposed to be safe.
We don't need to talk about work right now, though. We're celebrating.
What are we celebrating?
I don't know.
New friends?
Meeting new friends. Exactly.
Jax immediately raises a cup to that. Cheers to new friends. And the rest of the members of the Bastion raised as well. There's a round of clinks and people drank their drinks. Well, now that everyone's bellies are full, we should probably make it to the tavern if we don't want to miss that show.
Right. Audie, you should probably let everyone know that we're coming with the entire Immortal Bastion, huh?
Yeah, I can make sure to do spaces.
Go fast.
And Audie would give like a polite nod, bow, probably give Lucilla another hug if she wants one.
Mm-hmm.
And just thank you very kindly for this invitation. It is quite lovely.
Well, you're welcome back anytime.
And you have a wonderful family.
Thank you.
And yeah, and she'll run on ahead.
Mm-hmm. The Black Butterfly in Flight.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the next
Alright.
session name.
Wait, what do you mean? I assume the black butterfly's probably already at the tavern, right?
Mm-hmm. Just gotta make sure we get those seats.
Right.
Can't believe Audie's gonna miss the performance.
Audie always misses a performance.
She just faded to that, apparently. It's weird.
Yeah.
Not that I think it'll come up. But for the sake of this food that you've all had, you are satiated for the next 24 hours. And you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 1 roll of your hit die.
Ooh.
5 whole temp HP. Not adding con, just the roll, right?
Yeah, just 1 hit dice roll.
Okay.
Well, I think we should all take a moment and tidy up and then make our way over to the tavern. Especially if Audie's getting us seats. Melody, excuse me.
Oh, absolutely. Don't need to tidy up too much. The Daisy's kind of, well, even more relaxed atmosphere than this, honestly. If you haven't been there.
I've been by, and I would definitely say it's rowdier than here.
I don't think anyone's going to be dumb enough to be rowdy with the Immortal Bastion there.
Have you met our neighbors before?
Which ones? Because maybe.
The ones that look like they want to pick a fight with everybody that walks by.
The tyrants?
Uh-huh.
I have met them. They scare me.
Yeah.
I'm going there again tomorrow morning, though.
Why?
Complicated. But if you look at the sword belted to my hip and really think about it, you might figure it out.
She
I'll
does
tell you
so,
a whole story about it later.
and she furrows her brow trying to figure out what it is.
I'll tell you the story about it later.
Oh, it flip-flopped that time. Lucilla's staring at it very hard, almost exaggeratedly. And then you slowly see it begin to dawn on her features. Oh. Oh. Well, you know, our camp is just across the way.
And I intend to come back here. Promise.
I'll hold you to that.
You should.
Totally not going to be concerned about you going over there tomorrow. I'm
I will
probably
come.
not going to be watching you from the picket of our camp.
Okay, I will come by after I go to the Tyrant's camp, and I promise.
If you don't, I'm going to barge in there with my brother.
Oh, please don't do that. I will come by.
Well, if you will, then we have nothing to worry about.
Mhm.
But if you don't,
Okay. Oh, I don't like that.
and it's funny, it's just one of those, like, that's happening. And Lucius is just like, he left briefly and he's come back and he has his gladius strapped to his hip now. And there's just a moment where, like, Lucilla's saying this, and it's clearly not like a super reasonable course of action, but you just see him sort of nod. Like, if that's what Lucilla wants, sure.
They're going to come back from this mission and we're going to find out that Lucius and Acorn had a bonding moment. He's like, yeah, it's the best dog in the world. He likes belly rubs.
I will be so jealous.
They knew it was love at first glare. But I suppose I should pry. No, I won't actually. We're gonna end now, which is a little bit earlier than normal given our slightly later start. But I do have to start my new job tomorrow. So I'm gonna be a little bit responsible and not overinflate my time.
That
Boom.
gives me an entire week to write the rest of my song and to practice it and maybe perform it.
Oh boy.
Or maybe just a chorus. We'll see.
I was gonna say no pressure, but maybe a little bit. Maybe a lot of bit, depending upon how you're feeling. You're gonna perform in front of a live studio audience.
Yep.
I'll make sure to get a clap track ready. But yeah, okay. Hey, that's it. We're done. It's technically runtime a little earlier than normal, but them's the punches. Nope. That's how it be sometimes. Who'd have thought we'd spend so much time on just dinner? But I hope everybody had fun.
Yeah.
I hope you got to know your neighbors a little. Hopefully we will start dynamically developing relationships with all of the various groups in the camp. Or maybe not all of them, but some of them. And next week, apparently, we're going to have a performance. And
Yay.
we're going to see how that's going to turn out, you know. Be excited. Maybe I might actually start advertising just so people can come see that, because that's going to be great.
You're setting up expectations I can't live up to.
First of all, yes, you can.
Wait,
You can sing.
Sorry, I can next week. I mean, in the future, they'll be like, oh, there's going to be a new song every performance. No, there's not.
Well,
I promise you.
There could be. This could spark something inside of you you
It
never
might.
knew you wanted.
It might.
I'm just saying.
New song every week.
Yeah, I'm just saying, the last time I had a player suddenly off the cuff perform a song, it was magical. To which I hope I have a lot of that, because I want to go clip that.
That's because Kyle's amazing
Kyle
and
is
a wonderful singer.
Kyle is great. Yes,
You're also amazing. Shut up.
yeah, agreed. And again, she can also sing. She can like actually sing.
I've actually heard.
Yep. Anywho, you'll hear more next week. And hopefully all the things that we need to do in order to get to that position, along with Kay being comfortable enough to sing, and me getting proper rest for once this week. Ugh. The things that lead us there are hopefully good choices. So, otherwise, make those if you can. And just by that, I just mean make them. Because bad choices are bad for you. We'll see you next week. Yeah. Be safe, be healthy, drink water, make your choices. Have a good night. We're gonna, we're gonna go raid Dice and Autism. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And we're going. And we're going.
Woo!
That wasn't so